She looked at you, and something clicked or didn't. And here's what no one tells you. She made her choice before you even had the chance to explain yourself. It wasn't about your words. It wasn't about your looks. It wasn't even about what you did. It was what you radiated, the unspoken gravity of your presence, the silence between your words, the tension you didn't flinch from. In a world obsessed with chasing, pleasing, and trying to impress, the real power lies in the man who doesn't need to be chosen to know his worth. Because women don't choose the loudest voice in the room. They choose the one who makes them feel safe, curious, challenged, and seen. And today, we're going to uncover the truth behind that instinct. Not the lies society sells you, not the performance-based strategies, but the 5 hidden rules that women follow when choosing a man long before they even realize it themselves. This isn't about manipulation, it's about mastering yourself. Because in the end, she doesn't fall for what you give her. She falls for what you become in silence. Number 1. She chose you before you spoke. Why female selection isn't logical. She saw you before you said a word. She felt something or nothing long before your compliments, your dinner reservations, or your perfect replies ever reached her. And in that moment, whether you knew it or not, she already chose. The biggest mistake most men make is thinking that female attraction is built through logic, through proving your value, through being the nice guy or the most generous provider. But here's the truth. Women don't choose based on your words. They choose based on your energy, your instinctive imprint, your emotional gravity. This choice happens quickly, unconsciously, sometimes in seconds. And it's not always about who is best, but about who feels right. Machiavelli warned us, men judge more by the eye than by the hand. In love, this becomes, women choose based on perception, not provision. You can be the man who says all the right things, sends flowers, plans, dates. But if your energy screams insecurity, if your presence feels unstable, if you're trying to be chosen, she feels it. Not with logic, with instinct. Let's dig deeper. A woman's initial response to you is not filtered through a checklist of career, car, height, or fashion. It's felt in your posture, your voice, your stillness under pressure, and whether her nervous system relaxes or tenses in your presence. It's not attention that matters, it's selection. And selection is emotional. You might get her attention by being charming or impressive, but she selects you only if her body feels safe and drawn to your energy. Here's the contrast. One man texts her back instantly, takes her out to nice places and does everything right. But he's anxious. He's watching her reactions. He's trying to impress. She ghosts him because he never created emotional pull. Another man is calm, brief, confident. He speaks less, listens more. He doesn't chase, he doesn't over-explain. And days later, she's still thinking about him, wondering what he's thinking. That's instinct. That's pull. The Stoics knew this long before dating coaches. Epictetus taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. A man who is rooted in himself doesn't bend to gain favor. He doesn't chase validation. He governs his energy and lets the world adjust. From the perspective of Stoicism, this emotional gravity is built through self-command. You are not trying to manipulate her feelings. You are mastering your presence. So your energy speaks before you ever say a word. So let's redefine what women want. It's not a checklist. It's not a resume. It's not words. It's a feeling she gets when she's near you. And if you can control your nervous system, breathe slower in tension, stay composed when tested, she'll feel it, and her subconscious will whisper, he's different. And once that imprint is made, logic has nothing to do with what happens next. So the next time you find yourself over-explaining, over-pursuing, over-performing, stop and ask yourself, what energy am I radiating right now? Because her choice will come not from what you say, but from how she feels around your silence. Your new mantra is this: I lead with energy, not effort. Let your voice slow down. Let your eye contact stretch a second longer. Let your presence say everything your words never could. And if she doesn't choose you, that's not rejection. That's selection working in your favor, because a man who is sovereign doesn't want to be chosen through logic. He wants to be felt through truth. Now, comment below. She chooses my energy, not my words. Number 2. The unspoken code. 5 hidden rules women follow when choosing men. Every man has been there, left wondering why she pulled away when everything seemed to be going well. You did all the right things. You were available. You were kind. You even showed her your intentions clearly. But still, she slipped away, perhaps without warning, perhaps without closure. What if it wasn't what you said or did, but what she felt beneath your words and gestures? What if her choice had already been made, based on something you didn't even know you were transmitting? The truth most men never hear is this: women don't choose based on your effort. They choose based on your energy, and more specifically, they follow 5 hidden rules, unspoken, instinctive codes that tell them who to surrender to and who to forget. The first rule is perhaps the most misunderstood. Women choose men they feel safe to surrender around, not men they can control. This isn't about physical protection or financial stability. It's about emotional safety. A woman enters her feminine energy only when she senses that your masculine energy is centered, calm, and immovable. When you remain unshaken under pressure, when you don't snap, justify, or chase, she feels your power. In chaos, you remain the eye of the storm. As Machiavelli said, fortune favors the bold, but only when that boldness is grounded. A man who reacts wildly under stress loses her respect, but the man who leads with calm presence, she melts, because her nervous system recognizes this man cannot be moved by emotional waves. He becomes the anchor she can let go. The second rule is equally subtle, but just as powerful. Women choose men who make them curious. Predictability is the enemy of desire. If she knows exactly what you're thinking, feeling, and doing at all times, there's no mystery. And without mystery, there's no imagination. And without imagination, no depth of emotion. Machiavelli warned, people fall more easily for appearances than for reality. In love, appearance isn't about deception, it's about strategic restraint. You don't share everything. You don't explain your every move. You don't message her constantly. Why? Because you're too busy living a life that doesn't orbit around her. That space creates tension. That tension creates questions. And those questions, that's where emotional bonding begins, not through facts, but through fascination. The third rule cuts through modern myths of equality. Women choose men who are desired by others. Social proof isn't manipulation, it's psychology. When a man walks into a room and is greeted with respect, admiration, and subtle attention, it triggers something primal. Why does everyone admire him? What do they see that I don't? Suddenly, her attraction is no longer private, it's competitive. Machiavelli believed that reputation was the most powerful form of influence, and women are deeply attuned to it. The more others seem to value you, the more she instinctively perceives your attention as scarce and valuable. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're anchored in your own worth. And others feel it. The fourth rule is where emotional leadership becomes non-negotiable. Women choose men who lead their emotions, not men who mirror theirs. If she's anxious and you become anxious, you lose her. If she's angry and you match her tone, you fail the test. But if she spirals and you remain composed, if you don't stonewall or explode, but instead hold space without losing control, her storm breaks against your stillness. She doesn't always want agreement. What she craves is containment, a man who can absorb the chaos, reflect it calmly, and lead her back to peace without needing to win. This is not about emotional passivity, it's emotional strength. As Stoicism teaches, master yourself, and you master everything around you, not to dominate, but to lead by quiet example. And finally, the fifth rule, the one most feared by those who need validation. Women choose men who are willing to walk away. A man who fears losing her becomes a man she can never fully respect. Not because she wants to be abandoned, but because she needs to know that your standards are higher than your desire to keep her. If she crosses your boundaries and you stay, You've sold your crown for crumbs. Machiavelli wrote, "He who needs the crown to feel powerful is already a slave." In relationships, power belongs to the one who can leave without collapsing, not in anger, but in silence, not as punishment, but as principle. All 5 rules stem from the same truth. Women are not choosing with logic, they are choosing with instinct, with emotion, with the part of their being that senses leadership, mystery, social proof, emotional depth, and unshakable boundaries. The man who embodies these traits doesn't need to convince her. He doesn't need to chase. He doesn't need to perform. His energy speaks before he does. And when he walks into her life, something inside her knows. This one, I cannot control. And because I cannot control him, I want him. Now, comment below. I don't chase her instincts, will choose me. Number 3, gravity over words. Why energy and presence decide everything. Before you speak, before you even make eye contact, something happens. A pulse, a ripple, a shift in the emotional air. It's not loud, not theatrical, but it's felt. And if you're centered, grounded, still she feels pulled without understanding why. This is the invisible truth men keep missing. Women choose based on energy, not explanation. You can rehearse your lines, memorize the right things to say, or craft the perfect text, but if your presence doesn't carry weight, your words dissolve like mist. She won't remember what you said. She'll remember how she felt around you, and the man who can make her feel something deep, unspeakable, unshakable, that's the man she chases in her mind, long after the moment ends. Think of it like this: most men are noise. They fill the space with words, movement, effort. But high-value men are gravity. They pull effortlessly by doing less, not because they're lazy, but because their inner world is so complete, so disciplined, so purposeful, that their presence speaks louder than performance. This isn't about being mysterious for show. It's about being so rooted in who you are that you don't need to explain yourself. That calm confidence, the way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you listen, creates a gravitational field. And women, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to men who move with silent conviction. Machiavelli called this the art of shaping perception. Not through lies, but through design, he said. It is not necessary to be good, but to appear good. In other words, people believe what they feel about you, not what you tell them. And that's even more true in love. A woman doesn't trust because of what you promise. She trusts when her body feels your certainty. Stoic philosophy echoes this truth. Marcus Aurelius taught that your character is revealed in how you carry yourself under pressure. Not in your philosophy, not in your tweets, but in your presence. And presence is not what you do when you're trying to impress. Presence is who you are when you're still, when you're unbothered, when you stop needing and start observing. Women are attuned to this. They may not be able to explain it, but they know. She sees the man who walks into the room with calm in his eyes, the one who doesn't interrupt, who doesn't reach to fill silence, who doesn't chase validation, and she feels it, even if he says little, even if he stands in the corner. That silence, that self-command, it hits her like a quiet wave, because while the others are busy performing, he simply exists with intensity. Let's break this down. Energy is not about charisma or loudness. It's about control of breath, economy of movement, calm under tension. Presence is not about what you say. It's about whether you need to say anything at all. When a woman evaluates a man, especially in the early moments, she's asking herself, can I relax in this space if you're restless, unsure, or overcompensating? Her system senses it. She may smile, she may talk, but something inside her will not surrender. But if you're calm, if you listen deeply, if you move like a man who has nothing to prove, she relaxes, and in that relaxation, attraction blooms. Jung might call this energetic polarity the magnetic dance between the grounded masculine and the receptive feminine. And that polarity doesn't begin with looks or money or clever lines. It begins with how you hold the room, even if you're saying nothing at all. So what do? You train your nervous system. You master your energy. You practice silence. You sit in discomfort without reacting. You speak only when your words add weight, not noise. You become the man who listens to understand, not to respond. The man who lets others rush ahead while he waits for the right moment to move. The man who doesn't fight for the spotlight because he already owns the ground he stands on. That's the man women remember. That's the man she trusts even before she knows why. Your affirmation, my presence leads, my words follow. And when you live from that place, you no longer need to be chosen, because your energy has already walked into the room and introduced you before you ever opened your mouth. Now, comment below. I lead with presence, she feels it before I speak. Number 4. Emotional power is self-control. Why the man who masters himself always wins. Imagine a man standing still in the middle of emotional chaos. She's upset, maybe yelling, maybe crying, maybe testing. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't retaliate, he doesn't disappear. He simply holds the space calm, unshaken, like a mountain in a storm. That's not apathy. That's not emotional detachment. That is power, real, rooted, stoic power. Most men confuse dominance with control over others. But the highest form of masculine power is not about conquering her. It's about conquering yourself. And the moment you master your own emotions, your own responses, your own breath, you stop being a man she can manipulate. You become a man she can trust. In modern relationships, power isn't about who speaks louder. It's about who remains grounded longer. A woman will unconsciously test this because her nervous system is looking for something stronger than her chaos, not to tame her, but to hold her. When she yells and you yell back, she loses trust. When she storms out and you chase, she loses respect. But when she spins and you remain anchored, she feels safe. She may not show it at first, but deep down, she knows. This is what strength feels like. Machiavelli taught that strategy always beats brute force. A man doesn't need to fight every battle. In fact, the most powerful leaders win without conflict because their very presence makes conflict unnecessary. In love, this translates to emotional leadership. The man who doesn't react but responds. The man who doesn't chase storms but becomes the sky above them. From a Stoic perspective, this is the core of virtue. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." When you can sit in tension, observe your feelings, and act from principle instead of impulse, you no longer need tactics. You are the tactic. Let's go deeper. Emotional self-control doesn't mean repression. It means regulation. You don't ignore your anger, you harness it. You don't pretend you're fine, you process internally. And then you lead externally. This makes you unpredictable in the best way, because she knows she can't pull you into her emotional rhythm. Instead, she finds herself drawn into yours. And when that happens, she relaxes. She stops resisting. She starts trusting. Not because you told her to, but because your energy proved you could hold both her beauty and her madness without losing your center. Jung called this individuation the full integration of the masculine self. The warrior who knows when to fight. The sage who knows when to wait. The king who rules not by decree, but by presence alone. Here's what this looks like in real life. She's angry, you don't escalate. She's cold, you don't chase. She crosses a line, you don't debate, you withdraw, silently, with conviction. She returns, you don't punish, you observe. And in that stillness, she begins to regulate herself because your nervous system became her new emotional reference point. Reid's model of masculine polarity emphasizes this deeply. Women calibrate emotionally to the man who holds the stronger frame, not the harsher one, the calmer one, because that calm is rare, and rare is irresistible. So what's the practice? You don't train this in the moment of conflict. You train it in the silence before, through journaling, through cold showers, through saying no when it's easier to say yes, through breathing slowly when your chest tightens. You build it like a sword, quietly daily, alone. And when the moment comes, when the emotion rises, When the test appears, you don't need to pretend. You just respond with grounded truth. Your affirmation, I am the anchor, not the wave. And in that truth, you will never need to prove your worth again. But she'll feel it in the quiet, in the conflict, in the calm after the storm. She'll feel it, and she'll follow it, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Now, speak out and comment below. I lead emotions, I never get led by them. Number 5. The selector. Why high-value men don't compete, they choose. There's a subtle shift that happens when a man steps into his real worth. He no longer hopes to be chosen. He no longer wonders, does she like me instead? He watches, he observes, he decides, because at a certain level of self-mastery, a man no longer plays the game of approval. He becomes the one who chooses. And this terrifies most people. Why? Because a man who doesn't need to chase is a man who can't be controlled. A man who values peace over validation, purpose over attention, standards over flattery is a man who stands alone, but never lonely. This man doesn't need many, he only needs alignment. And here's the truth women never say out loud. They respect the man who can walk away more than the one who waits to be picked. In modern dating, most men have been trained to perform, to impress, guess what she wants and bend themselves into it. They lower standards for chemistry. They tolerate disrespect for connection. They chase attention as if their worth depends on it. But Machiavelli warned us, the one who depends on the approval of others is already ruled by them. Power belongs to the one who can choose silence over drama, distance over neediness, and purpose over desperation. The Stoics knew this too. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect in love." That means you never trade your standards for closeness. If she doesn't meet your values, if she tests without depth, if she disrespects your time or energy, you don't explain. You exit. That is the behavior of a selector. But here's the twist. Women are not repelled by this strength. They are magnetized by it. Because when you don't need them, they realize they must meet you, not manipulate you. They feel the shift. You are no longer the contestant. You are the prize. And being the prize is not arrogance. It's simply the truth for a man who has built himself, who protects his focus, who doesn't flinch when left on red, who walks away from disrespect without needing revenge. That man doesn't wait to be chosen because his life already chose him. Let's make this real. 2 men. One gets ghosted and sends a long emotional message. He wants closure, understanding, a second chance. She forgets him within days. The second man notices the ghosting, says nothing, and goes silent forever. She checks his stories. She waits for him to come back. He doesn't. Now she's thinking. Now she's wondering. Now he has power not because he played games, but because he refused to negotiate his dignity. Jung might say this man is fully individuated. He's integrated his light and shadow. He doesn't perform. He doesn't submit. He simply selects based on resonance, not emotional hunger. That's how a relationship becomes equal, not when both people seek validation, but when both people stand in their own values and choose freely. No fear, no control, just clarity. Here's what you need to do to become the selector. Define your standards in love. What will you tolerate? What is non-negotiable? Live from mission, not emotion. Let your purpose set your tone, not your hormones. Don't rush to fill space. Let people reveal themselves. Time exposes truth. Walk away with calm when respect is broken. No lecture, no second attempt, just stillness. And watch what happens. You'll attract fewer people, but the ones who stay will reveal your worth back to you. Because they're not staying out of confusion. They're staying because your presence demands sincerity. Reed's principle of polarity reminds us, when a man leads with clarity and non-neediness, feminine energy relaxes into surrender, not forced, not manipulated naturally, because now she's no longer trying to choose someone, she's trying to be chosen by someone whose standards mean something. Your affirmation, I don't prove, I choose. So don't be the man who wants to be liked. Be the man who lives a life so aligned, so inwardly complete, that only those who resonate with your truth get access. And when you live that way, you don't attract followers. You attract equals. Now, comment below, I'm not waiting to be chosen, I'm the one who chooses. You've seen it now, the truth behind her gaze, the invisible process that decides everything not with logic, but with instinct. She doesn't fall in love with effort. She doesn't surrender to performance. She doesn't crave perfection. She chooses the man who doesn't flinch, the one who holds the frame when the world shakes, the one who doesn't explain his worth but embodies it. So stop chasing attention. Stop trying to be the right guy. Be the man who leads with energy, walks with silence, and lives by standard. Because when you master presence, when you value peace over validation, when your standards cut sharper than your words, you don't get chosen. You become the one who chooses. Now, speak out and comment below. I no longer chase approval, I choose from power.